Hello friends, welcome back to the tourism lecture series. Today we are going to talk about the types of tourism and category of tourism. Types of tourism basically depends on the decision to visit the place or destination of choice. The movement of tourists from the place of origin to the destination is further described as international tourism and domestic tourism. When a person travels within the country, that is known as domestic tourism, whereas when the travel is from one country to another country, that phenomena is known as international tourism. So tourism can be divided into two major categories: international tourism and domestic tourism. International tourism, when the travel is from one country to another country, it means it is against the place of origin. A tourist leaves his place of origin, and it means he escapes from place of origin and he visits to the destination country, which is out of his nation. Similarly, domestic tourism, when the travel is within the country, that means trips taken by a tourist within his or her own country, or where the origin and destinations are in the same country, that is known as domestic tourism. So that is the basic difference between international and domestic tourism. Let's talk about more about the international tourism. International tourism, we come across two other terms, that is inbound and outbound. Inbound tourism refers to tourists entering to a destination country, whereas outbound tourism is referred as the tourist leaving their country of origin for another country. So we must remember that on the journey back, a tourist is only returning to the place of residence and he cannot be termed as inbound tourist. But at the same time, another tourist can also be an inbound tourist. For example, I decide to go to Australia. From the point of view of India, I will be described as an outbound tourist, but Australia will describe me as an inbound tourist. It means you have to know the major difference between inbound and outbound. It means inbound and outbound is always against the country of origin. Do remember, a person cannot be inbound and outbound for the same country. It means country of origin. Let's try to understand this in different way. Suppose you are a tourist from India and you are traveling to the Australia. So India will refer you as an outbound tourist, whereas Australia will refer you as an inbound tourist. Now the question is, what when you return back to your country? So when you are returning back to your country, that means India. So for India, you will be considered as simply returning home, nothing else. So don't forget that inbound and outbound will be always against your country of origin. Now let's talk about the forms of tourism. Now, can you tell me that what is main reason behind the forms of tourism? See, when it comes for the forms of tourism, most of the form in tourism have been originated from the motives or the purposes it solves. Forms and types of tourism emerge within the context of changing social value. For example, in modern society, the value of being has been superseded by the value of having. Possession, property, wealth, egoism, and consumption have become more important than community, tolerance, moderation, sensibility, and modesty. Further, forms of tourism emerge from different fields of tension such as work, rest, awake, asleep, exertion, relaxation, income, expenditure, job, family, freedom, necessity, risk, security. Similarly, dirt, noise, rush, pollution, and trouble, etc., are also key expression of such tension. The possibility of going away is very important in such a context. That's why forms of tourism basically is based on the motives or purposes or to experiencing change from the normal routine lifestyle or from the change from the place of residence or escape from the place of residence. The most typical form of tourism are leisure, rest, health, adventure, pilgrimage, and so on. Whether a tourist takes leisure activity at beach resorts or adventure in the sky for thrilling experiences or visiting some zoo or national parks in regard to wildlife watching and experiencing some new things or enjoying cruise party in the sea, in the ocean with some groups or visiting some streams or waterfalls or even some temples for pilgrimage purposes. But the major reason behind all this is to solve the purposes which is pre-decided by the tourist. Hence, by now we can say it is motives which compels tourists to take some adventurous or health or leisure or pilgrimage or any other types or forms of tourism activities to satisfy their psychological needs or any other types of needs. Moving ahead, tourism can be further categorized into other major categories depending on the target markets and purpose it solves. Let's talk about the category of tourism and its definition. Category of tourism can be adventure tourism, ecotourism, geotourism, mass tourism, nature tourism, pro-poor tourism, responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, and many other types of category of tourism. Let's talk about the category adventure tourism, a form of nature-based tourism that incorporates an element of risk, higher level of physical exertion, and the need of specialized skill. Ecotourism, responsible travel to natural area that conserves the environment and improves the welfare of local people. Similarly, geotourism is tourism that sustains or enhances the geographical character of a place, its environment, heritage, aesthetic, and culture and well-being of the residents. Mass tourism is a large-scale tourism typically associated with the sea, sand, sun, resorts, and characteristics such as transnational ownership, minimal direct economic benefit to the destination, community, seasonalities, and package tours. Nature-based tourism, any form of tourism that relies primarily on the natural environment for its attraction or settings. Similarly, pro-poor tourism, tourism that results in increased net benefits for the poor people. It helps in sustaining the livelihood options and at the same time it also helps in welfare activity. Responsible tourism, that tourism maximize the benefit for the local community and minimize negative social or environmental impacts and helps local people to conserve the culture and nature. Sustainable tourism, tourism that meets the needs of present tourist and host regions while protecting and enhancing opportunities for the future. So now we came to know about the various categories of tourism. So, but this is not limited up to these categories. There are many more categories of tourism, but most of the tourism activities can fall under these major categories. Like for example, adventure can be land-based or aerial adventure or water-based adventure. Similarly, ecotourism activities may have also different types of products, whether it's eco tracks or whether it's a community village visits or agri-tourism or any other types of tourism or eco-lodging or wildlife watching. So all this comes under the ecotourism activities and many more possibilities are there under ecotourism activities. Similarly, mass tourism, when it comes for mass tourism, automatically a big picture comes in our mind. So it's a combination of various tourism, various program activities. Hope by now you would have understood types of tourism. Thank you and go for tourism.